This has been a great year for Washington conservation voters, and one of the most exciting things has been welcoming a new executive director. I'm thrilled to introduce WCV's Executive Director, Brendon Cechovic.
Good morning, and thank you all so much for being here. I think you probably all had the same thought walking in here at 7 o'clock in the morning. Like, have you ever seen so much schmoozing at 7 o'clock, honestly, right? We have a joke in the environmental community that we can't get a meeting started before 10 o'clock. So seeing you all here at 7 is amazing and fantastic. Say a few big thank yous before we start this morning. The first, of course, to all of our breakfast sponsors this morning. Our sponsors really make this event possible. We couldn't do it without you. And the same goes for all of our amazing table captains. So thank you all so much, so much. We are really proud of our great staff at WCV, and of course we couldn't put this breakfast on without them. And just say a real special thanks, she's probably not even in the room, to Lauren Fitzgerald, our events coordinator at Washington Conservation Voters. Let's give her a huge round of applause for today. I am so honored to be here as the new executive director of Washington Conservation Voters, especially be here at this moment in time in our movement. You know, this breakfast has always been where the environmental community comes together and speaks with one loud, strong voice. I believe that this morning we need that strong voice more than ever. Our theme this morning is courage, conviction, and leadership. And that could be our theme every year as we use this time together to honor our most effective and strong environmental leaders. But the times, though, I believe, require a little more than that this morning. This is our 19th annual breakfast, and we're using this as a call for courage and leadership at one of the most critical times in our movement's history. And it's fair to say that our challenges and the opportunities in front of us have never been stronger. The battles ahead will require leadership on all of our parts, and will be a test of our leadership. We all need to come into 2012 with a clear understanding of what's in front of us and cast a strong new vision for the future. And it's worth being honest about the state of national environmental politics right now. I think it's fair to say it's never been so divisive or partisan, and progress has never seemed so unlikely as it is right at this moment. I mean, a couple of examples. It was only 3 years ago that John McCain and President Obama were on the campaign trail, the presidential campaign trail, vying over who had the strongest climate change and clean energy policies. Today, there isn't one serious presidential contender who will even say that human beings contribute to climate change. It's shocking how far we've come in these 3 years. Times are tough right now. These can seem like dark days. The Supreme Court's ruling on Citizens United has fundamentally changed the nature of campaign politics in this nation. Here at home, Tim Eyman continues on his destructive march towards crippling our state government. I urge everyone to vote no on 1125 this year, and please support that campaign. And of course, the situation we're in with our state budget shortfall threatens to dismantle decades of environmental protections. So where does that leave us here in Washington? How do we make progress in the face of such strong challenges? How do we ever turn the tide on the big issues, like clean energy, addressing climate change, or restoring the health of Puget Sound? Friends, I believe that we'll make progress in Washington the way we always have here, by setting our own course. By setting our own course and electing the kinds of leaders who will do the right thing, will step out and have the courage to lead us forward. And there's really no question that the political choices we make now in the short term will impact our environment and quality of life for generations to come. And that's what makes the work of Washington Conservation Voters unique. We lobby in Olympia alongside over 25 partner organizations like the Washington Environmental Council. We publish a scorecard that holds our elected officials accountable for their environmental votes. And most importantly, we engage Washington's environmental majority to win elections. All of this work comes together. What this really is about is turning our shared environmental values into our state's priorities. I also want to say, despite those challenges, I am honestly more optimistic right now than I ever have been. I mean that, and I'll tell you why. I'm optimistic because I see new leaders emerging every day in Washington who are committed to moving us forward. And we have amazing examples right here in this room. Secretary of State Sam Reed is here this morning. You know that WCV has been proud to support Secretary Reed in his 2 statewide elections for Secretary of State and has been a big part of this breakfast for many, many years in a row. There's a story, though, I'm pretty sure most of you haven't heard about Secretary Reed. During legislative session, Sam Reed gathered a group of Republican legislators over breakfast every Wednesday morning in Olympia. Do you know the topic? It's protecting our environment. Sam saw a need to restart the conversation about how Republicans can be leaders and should be leaders on these issues, and he quietly went to work to make that happen. Sam's told me that these meetings started small and over time grew to over 20 Republican legislators. And they talked about a variety of topics, controlling toxic stormwater runoff that's killing Puget Sound, climate change, clean energy, transportation. Folks, that's real leadership. There's no press release or fanfare, just a man who saw a need and had the courage and the strength of character to go get it done. Sam Reed's retiring from public office at the end of 2012, and just want to say, Sam, we're going to miss working with you so much, and thank you so much for all your service. We're going to miss you. We also know that because of your hard work, and these meetings are just one small example of that others are going to follow your lead to show the rest of the state that these issues can and should be bipartisan. So thank you again. We have another leader in the room I'd like to point out this morning. This is a local election year in Washington, right? So it's city councils, county councils, court commissions all over the state. You probably also heard about a big push from coal companies to start transporting millions of tons of coal from Wyoming and Montana all the way across our state to ports out on our coast. We're talking about hundreds of coal trains rumbling through places like Spokane, the Seattle waterfront, and Bellingham. This is a real risk to the health of our communities, and it absolutely puts America's leadership in question with the rest of the world in combating climate change and pushing forward on clean energy. Now look, the politics are messy around this, and of course the easy thing to do would be avoid the issue altogether. Bellingham Mayor Dan Pike. Dan, are you with us this morning? There he is. Dan Pike was the first elected official in the state to stand up and say no to the coal trains. Mayor Pike, we all applaud your leadership, and we are proud to stand with you in your re-election this fall, so thank you so much. I could go to every single table in this room and tell a similar story, from House Speaker Frank Chopp to Majority Leader Lisa Brown to all of our amazing volunteer leaders around the state. This is a room full of extraordinary people who have already answered that call to action. Local elected leaders like Dow Constantine, like Bill Bryant, or people like WCB chapter leader Kathy Dewhurst, who spends countless hours working with our endorsed environmental candidates up in Snohomish County. These are the kinds of stories that inspire me and give me hope for the future of our great state. As an environmental community, our job now, moving forward, is to recognize and reward that sort of leadership and courage wherever we see it. That's how we move forward. Now, of course, I've saved two of our finest examples of courage and leadership for our next two speakers. And on that note, I'd like to bring up WCV lobbyist Cliff Traisman to introduce our first speaker, our Washington Conservation Voters Legislator of the Year.